a bunch of stuff hanging out.
I just hit record just because why not?
Yeah, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
No,
Um,
this is great.
yeah, this is my house. Yeah, I was thinking if nothing else, we get to hang out.
I'm down. That sounds great. I like this Nike shirt, man. Do you still get stuff from them and are still connected?
I do, yeah. I still
Yeah,
from time to time I'll hit
yeah,
up Steve the TM, and
yeah,
I've known those guys. I was just thinking about it. It's like I should be my allowance for product should be probably up right about now.
yeah.
'Cause I've been with them, I was with them for years, but it's been so long. But time flies by, you know?
Totally. But I think that they kind of owe you. I think it's hilarious that you can still Google like Reese Forbes dunks and people pay $800 for some hemp
Uh,
ones.
I know at least
Yeah,
they're even, I mean, what are the denims, certain sizes, 30 grand?
yeah. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
I know. It's crazy.
Did you keep a bunch of that stuff?
I kept it, but I've sold a lot too. I'm not as much as I want to be a collector, I'm not a collector. Like I don't have a room devoted to memorabilia and it's just not my thing. But
Yeah,
people do, you know.
I'm definitely a pretty big collector of just skateboards and other things. My assistant's looking at me like you hoard everything, but
Well, and it
yeah.
looks cool behind you. I mean, they look really cool on the wall.
Well, I don't know if you know who Joe Johnson is, but he was like a Vision Pro.
Yep, I remember just long hair, long blonde hair.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm. I have some of his stuff, and he's actually from Fort Collins.
Oh, really?
So when we were kids, he was like a god. Like we'd go to the indoor park because we had an indoor park for a little while, and he'd come home at Christmas, and it was just like, "What are you doing now, Joe?" "Oh, I live at Tony's house," and it was like he lived with Tony Hawk. He just skated the vert ramp all the time, and
Yeah.
we just thought he was like the coolest dude ever. He actually lives back here now, and I get skate with him from time to time. But
I like the way he skated. He was
oh
good.
yeah,
He was
he
one
was
of
really
my
good.
he was one of my guys. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I think I saw Bones Brigade video show with my uncle in Lompoc in like 1980 something.
yeah,
I don't know what it was, but yeah, I followed all that stuff. All the guy Thrasher banners on my wall, all that stuff.
yeah,
So you have an assistant in the room right now?
yeah, yep,
Awesome. Hi,
yeah.
assistant. Hi, how are you?
She's on the other side of the computer, about I don't know, 2 desks away or whatever.
Oh, cool. Okay, so
But
this is your office.
this is my office. Yep.
Right on. Awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
man.
Well,
Well,
I'm 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 ready to start, whatever
yeah, let me
whatever comes
ask some of the
whatever comes out
questions.
of this is great, by the way. Like
Okay.
whatever conversation comes out of this, whatever mainly it's like I want to the purpose for doing this is so I can give the video editor some kind of a storyboard to go off of so we can
Okay.
do the bigger picture marketing plan for me. So
That's perfect, man. Yeah, let's just
yeah.
see where it goes. And if we had to do it again, I'd love the opportunity and we can just see what happens. But yeah, I thought we could start with maybe just you introducing you if you felt comfortable with it. Like tell us how you got here. Maybe not real estate yet, but just how like moved from DC when and maybe how you just started skating, like what year that was.
Oh, you're good at this. You're really good at this. Okay. Well, I'm a kid that grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in the Washington D.C. area, in Maryland, and I used to take the train in. I mean, all throughout high school, junior high, my adolescent period, I started to get. My mother brought me a skateboard from California. She took a trip to California and brought me my first skateboard, which was a Volterra uh, from like a Kmart out here in California. And she brought it back with her on a plane.
Was it
And
like the Back to the Future one?
it kind of was. It kind of
Okay.
was. It had like the rails were guarded, the tail was guarded,
Yeah.
everything was guarded. And so she brought that back, and I think I was about 9 and went to pick her up from the airport, and that thing slid down after all of her luggage came off that was the last thing to come down. I remember it. I remember the day. And I don't
Yeah.
remember that much from my those years, but I remember that coming down, and I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm gonna do. And so I skated all through elementary, junior high, and then in high school I started to get, well, I was getting good at it, and then I ended
Yeah.
up getting sponsored by a company out here in California, and they started sending me product, and one of the local pros, Chris Hall,
Yeah.
ended up giving me a box of skateboards, and I was sponsored by a little shop called Wheel Pro.
Okay.
But yeah, that was my first kind of introduction to getting sponsored and getting product, and then eventually flying out of the country and flying around for demos and things like that. So
So cool.
yeah,
Who was the first sponsor then? What was like the board company? Was it Element the whole time or the first sponsor?
I got sponsored by a company called Good Times.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they one of the local guys in DC was sponsored by Good Times, and he told them about me, and they started sending me product, and then I flew to San Diego, and I took a little trip with them up to Portland. And
Sick.
yeah, it was sick. It was really
Yeah.
it was interesting to get like well, on that trip I actually was in San Diego. Just I drove with a friend out to California, and then took
Okay.
a trip up to Portland from that trip. So yeah, it was an exciting time because we went it for Halloween, and it was just out of control. And it was, yeah, it was just all the things that you would expect from a skate trip. I drove up in a windowless van. I was just like, there was a boombox playing Metallica, and
Yeah.
cooler with beer in it, and that was the seat. And there were no windows, and then the two guys that were driving. So
Dang. That sounds so awesome. This is just a selfish question, but do you was Allie Mills from your area?
I think he was, but I never knew him.
Okay,
He
okay.
came kind of before my time,
I
or
just
wasn't around.
when I was skating the Boulder Park a ton, which was like the first outdoor park kind of in our area, he was going to see you.
Oh, okay, okay,
And so I remember Mike Burnett, because that's who I would skate with all the time. This was before Thrasher. He was just a student at
yeah,
CH or at CU. And he was like, "That's Allie Mills. That's the guy who did like the first nollie flip." And I was like,
oh yeah,
"Oh, that's incredible." So
yeah.
uh,
He was he skated Interskate in Massachusetts.
yeah, it was like that indoor roller skate
Yeah,
park.
the indoor
Yeah,
roller rink. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yep. I
Yeah, I
remember.
remember
Kind of
when
like the
we
way he
saw him do a
skated.
nollie flip in like one of the early New Deal videos. We were just like, "Oh my gosh, that guy must be so good."
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nolly
I
flip.
think it bounced on the ground before he landed it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I remember.
if you watched it now, you would just think it was horrible.
Yeah, I love those old videos. I mean, that's the nostalgia that I love about skateboarding. I could still watch it. I'm like, even though it's so textured and grainy and kind of sloppily filmed, it's like
Right.
I still like all the outfits, all the all the gear, the boards. It just, and the
That's so
fact that they
cool.
were doing them on those boards too. It's like,
Yeah, and you were seeing it for the very first time. And like, I
yeah,
think one of the interesting things about you too is like, speaking of like the outfits and fashion of skating, you got to work with Quicksilver designing stuff. What was that like?
it was great. I came to Quicksilver with my friend Mark Abla, and we got a team going,
Okay.
and started designing some product. And I got into some of the denim, and learning about fits and rises and washes. And ended up doing a signature jean with some whiskering on it. And
Yeah,
but looking back, it's a little bit, I mean, this is a while ago, so it's the jeans themselves they were kind of like a looser fit and
sure.
kind of boot cut. It's not really the style now, but yeah, at the time it was, they responded to them,
Yeah.
like them. Yeah.
In doing all that sort of thing, what was like your favorite product that you had a hand on?
I Well, one of the I did really like having some of the other guys that rode for Quicksilver kind of followed suit and they developed their own product. So
Okay.
I had a hand in that too, which was great. So I product specifically, I did enjoy working with designers to come up with new concepts for new items of new articles of clothing. So
Mm.
the jeans were good. I did a shoe collaboration, we started the Quicksilver started to make shoes, so I had a hand in making the shoes and working with designers on different different materials. And I had already been at Nike for a while,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um those the shoes were great, and it was cool to make something exactly what I wanted on a new mold. So
Right.
I just learned a lot about materials, fits, molds, I mean, production time, lead time. There's a ton that I learned in the business world of actually making a product and what it takes. So I gained a new respect for designers and for merchants as well.
Well, and I think it's so unique, your standpoint on it. I mean, I know selfishly we're talking a lot about skateboarding, but how did you transition into real estate from skateboarding? And did you have any real estate thoughts when you were in your skate life? Like before you transitioned, how did that transition kind of come about? And
So, I mean, aside from owning my own homes,
yeah,
I bought a house with my wife in San Francisco in 2004 and
okay,
sold it a couple of years later. So I had my first introduction to real estate was buying my own home and dealing with a real estate agent and dealing with
yeah,
a lender. And that time we were paying so much in rent. So the next natural course of action was to purchase a house, and it was a good time to do that. So we ended up buying a house in Noe Valley in San Francisco, and then selling it a couple years later, and then moving to Los Angeles, and then I actually bought direct from the seller, didn't use an agent, which proved to be a really valuable experience in real estate and dealing with a transaction. I didn't even know I was dealing with my own transaction really until it was all happening. Up until the point I was shaking his hand in the driveway, and then he upped the price on me
uh,
and shook his hand anyway. So I like telling that story because it's a good one in support of using a real estate agent
right,
and how we can help you
yeah,
um, as a client. But so buying my own transaction, and then I did a big pivot. And when I was about 35, I had done all I could do in the skateboarding world. I mean, as far as I was concerned, I did the contests, I did demonstrations all over the world. I went to, for 11 years straight. I think I was in Australia every single year. I was
wow,
traveling 6 months out of the year. I was all over Asia. I was all over South America, all over Europe, Canada. I mean, you name it. I was just everywhere. And so I just hit a point where I was burnt out and needed to do something different. And also our kids were really young at the time.
yeah,
And so it was a really big pivot time, and it was the transition wasn't overnight, but I think my transition from the skate world, skate business world, and then into real estate it really came about from other people knowing me and
yeah,
talking to me and then mentioning it. I think after like the 14th, 15th person saying, "Hey, have you ever thought about real estate?" It's like, I might want to consider taking a look at that. Like I hadn't really thought about that, but being a real estate agent, that's sort of what kind of prompted my curiosity. So I started researching it, looking into it, and then had a couple of other opportunities come in line, and then I started to take my real estate license exam. So
very cool. And I know that you've worked with some of the biggest companies in the world designing and having products that have your name on them from Nike and Quicksilver. What are the things that you learned from iconic brands like that you bring to your own real estate branding now?
Well, you know, I've worked with Jaguar. I've worked with
Yeah, Jaguar too. I should have said that. I
Oh
apologize.
yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, I'm running through my memory here, which I'm sure it's going to lapse. But yeah, Jaguar, Quicksilver, Nike, you know, and then all the PR that surrounds it, all the marketing engine that
Right.
surrounds all these bigger brands, and all the energy and the minutia that goes into to having all these brands be the successes that they are. So you know, the way that I bring that into my brand, I mean, what I did with all those brands is I carried them on my back, you know, whether I was wearing it on a shirt or flying to another country representing on a microphone or you know, being on television. Or I think with that, it's like, you know, I think what I learned is that for me, I might have to mute because my got two dogs here.
No, that's fine.
Um, yeah, I think for me, what I learned is that you know, really at the end of the day, it's your integrity and how you carry yourself,
Sure.
and you know, the brands that are, you know, you're accompanying with whatever project you're working on, you know, you represent those things. So for me, it's my own brand. I am my own brand,
Yeah.
and I'm my own business. So I think those are a few of the things that I learned.
I like how there's such a correlation between skateboarding and real estate in my mind. Maybe it's just how I look at it, but it is kind of like creating your own graphic and creating your own marketing. And the fact that I sell real estate in my hometown, I have all these experiences, but I look at how cool it is because San Francisco is so iconic as a city. What are some of the things that you really look at as far as when you're selling something, just your experiences living in the city probably lean into a lot of how you could help a client who is looking at property in the city.
Yeah, so I have a history there. That's number one. I mean,
Yeah.
I've lived there. I've eaten there. I
Yeah.
pretty much in early 2000s I've eaten. I pretty much ate at every restaurant you could eat in San Francisco, and I've been to the top of, you know, all the hotels. I really did it. I mean, when I think back to my wife Sean and I when we lived in the city.
Right.
Like there's nothing that we didn't do. There's nobody we didn't meet. Now, given it's
Yeah.
a different time now, it's the
Hmm.
same city. You know, things have changed a bit, but with San Francisco, things like weather play a big part. You know, there's
Yeah.
different parts of the city that will get different types of you know, there's microclimates in all of the Bay Area, you know,
Right.
over here in Marin County included. So weather plays a big part, you know, there's different districts that provide different benefits and different things for you to do the way that you'll actually live your life. So
Yeah.
whether you're in the marina or downtown, you know, all you have access to everything, but the your lifestyle in each of those areas, you know, changes a bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think all of that, you know, and how to navigate the city, you know, how long it'll take, what public transit, all the things that go into living the city life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I can provide insight into that. So
Being from Colorado, it was really hard. And I know I talked to you about our mutual friend Scott before, but when we lived there, my wife and I, we just loved going outside of the city to like Fort Miley at night. And we would actually just go there and make s'mores with Scott because he is from North Carolina. We're from Colorado. The city was so loud for us because we grew up where there's a lot more space and a lot more quietness. But I just think it's sick that you know so much about the city. And if I was a client looking to buy in the city, I would definitely appreciate the knowledge that you bring.
oh, thanks. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and you can always come to Marin if you can't stand the noise of the city.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We
Of
would we would
options.
cross the Golden Gate Bridge a lot and just hang out on the beach.
Yeah.
So what do you think from skating, or what was a lesson? It could be from business or real estate or design or skating, but where do you think there are some lessons that you bring to real estate that developed in those other in those other genres of your life?
Yeah, so, well, I think that it might not be something that I learned through business itself. It might be just inherent in my personality and who I
Okay.
am. But I think the thing that people appreciate, I know myself included, is when something needs to be heard, that there's someone there to listen, and not talk over them, and actually give them insight through the information that they're giving you. That's
Yeah.
inherent to my personality. That's one of the reasons that I gravitated towards real estate when I started to actually probe and investigate, was
Hmm.
that I genuinely, I mean, it's encoded in my DNA. I actually want to help you get what you want.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's a natural fit for me. I don't know where I picked it up, but it actually does me a great service. Now, the believability on the other end, hearing that might be, some people might be skeptical at hearing that, but it really is true for me. I get a lot out of helping people, whether it's through real estate or otherwise, volunteer,
Right.
any kind of altruistic effort is is beneficial to me. So that's who I am.
That's sick. I I think I tell a lot of people, and I'm mostly speaking to people who didn't grow up skateboarding, but I feel like skateboarding is a huge advantage in any business because to me, it took me a long time sometimes to learn new tricks and to master them. And it was really normal to be like, oh, I failed 1,000 times, but every one of those failures felt like I was getting closer. It was like, oh, I'm going to kickflip this set of stairs and, take 10, 15, 20, a million tries. But every try felt like I was getting better at it. And I kind of bring that to real estate intuitively. I don't really think about it, but as I've talked to more and more people, I realize that it's something from skating that really was there, that I just think that it's normal to fail and try to fail and get better, where I don't think other people have that same natural intuition.
Right.
Is there anything else from like skating that you really think is innate in you that, because I know when we talked earlier, you had said that some of these brands that are really iconic and I view as such a cool way to view real estate through your lens, you did it for so long that maybe that lens just feels like normal, but it's
Right.
really not normal to your clients. And
Right.
I think it brings so much value to them.
I think it's perseverance. I think we have, as skateboarders,
Yeah.
we have this we have this asset about us that we don't give up. We don't give up until you do land the trick, or
Yeah.
you land the line, or whatever it is. I mean, we deal with so many variables. I
Yeah.
dealt with them for years, and I still watch it to this day when I see my friends that are still doing it, or younger guys. It's like, you have the police, you have security,
Yeah.
you have you've got weather, you've got, I mean, it's just anything you could think of throwing it at this activity that
Right.
we're going to get. So I think that's one thing. Now, whether someone's, having a client work with you through that process, because we don't give up no matter what. At least that's my general outlook, is that I'm not
Yeah.
going to give up until the job is done and we're going to win.
Yeah.
So so I think that's something that carries into real estate pretty
I
well.
love that you I love that you said variables because I hadn't really thought of it that way. Like when you're skating and you're about to get kicked out and you have to do it like this try, or the filmer is running out of battery. That's not really a thing anymore. But I remember when I was a kid, the battery was like always this issue. And I feel like in looking at real estate in that same way, it's like there are a lot of things you don't control. The lender, the appraisal, the HOA documents, how the person's job interacts with their ability to get the loan. So I think that's such a cool way to look at it. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, and your approach too. It's like, if
Yeah.
that approach didn't work, then we're gonna try something else.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna we're gonna work this thing, 360 degrees
Yeah.
until it works. We're gonna try every avenue that we can until we just exhaust our efforts. you know?
It's always awesome when someone buys the first house, the first offer that they make, but I would say that it's much more common. And I have the same attitude you do of like, if you want to buy a house, I'm happy to wait until the 20th contract or whatever it takes because I just want to keep working for the clients. And I think skating did bring some of that into my brain that it just, that seems normal to me, where other agents will tell me who did not grow up skating that that just seems like pushing too far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll go to any lengths for the people that I'm working with.
I
It's just
love that.
what it is. So,
Can you think of a time where, like, what, if you feel comfortable sharing, what is one of the more challenging things that you've faced in your real estate career or could be your personal life that you think maybe now defines you in a positive way?
um, well, I mean, I think we talked a little bit about some of that right there. So, it's just, it's getting to the point where where you are persevering through trials,
Yeah.
because you've been crushed or denied, or it's like that stuff is just it's happened in the past, but you just pick yourself up,
Yeah.
you move on, and then it's on to the next. It's not, you don't sit and dwell. There's a lot of in real estate, you keep your attitude up, you keep your, this is in life in
Right.
general. It's like you keep your
Yeah.
attitude up, you stay positive, you stay grateful, and that's all of our own work to do on ourselves. And you have to be the attraction. No one wants to be around someone that's, dwelling and feeling sorry for themselves or whatever it is. It's like you have to stay positive and up, because that's like attracts like. So you want a clean aura, and all that around you. So yeah, I think that's those are some of the attributes from that I carry into this.
I love that you said that because I do think that the outlook is such an important part of anything. You can choose to see an event in a negative way or a positive way at all times. And really, like, that choice leads to a lot of the outcomes that come out of that thing.
I was talking to my son the other day about something like this. I can't remember how it came up, and I was kind of going down the rabbit hole with him on this topic or something, and he just turned to me and goes, "You mean the way that you look at it, right?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, exactly. I mean, just well said. That's simply put. I can
Mhm.
choose to look at it several ways, and it might be a little variation of all those ways, but." How am I going to look at it right now? You know, is it the silver lining? Is the glass half full? All the rest of the cliches you could throw in there, but I am choosing to look at it this way. In hindsight, in reflecting, it had to happen that way, because if it didn't happen that way, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I love that. I think one of the challenges that everyone faces, especially in real estate, I can't control the interest rate. I
Right.
can't control what the other offers look like if we're in a multiple offer situation, but I can control the personal attitude that I take as the agent to try to add some level of control where it can be implemented. And a lot of that is just the positive outlook because I know people are going to get disappointed and I know one of the parties is going to be disappointed if they don't win it. But I think bringing like hope to that situation and experience is a big part of leading them back up. So
Yeah, and it's the most difficult, trying transaction that most people will, experience in their life, and
yeah.
we need to be the rock there.
And
So
it's the probably the biggest amount of money that they're going to spend on one thing. And it means so much as well. I feel like if I'm going to spend X amount of money on something, when I buy a stock, you could name whatever stock you want
I,
as an investment. I'm not as tied to that. And if I buy a house as an investment, I'm not as tied to that. But my personal house, I would have sometimes a hard time considering selling it because that's where I have a photo of my 4-year-old daughter looking over a fence at the neighbor's dog. And that's, where my son graduated high school and then came home with his gown or whatever. And I feel like there's so much emotion tied into it. It's not only that someone is going to buy this asset for their own personal financial gain, perhaps, but this is where they're going to raise their family or experience their life as they go through their job and their retirement. And I feel like those are things that are really hard to quantify financially, but you can listen to someone. And I like that you said that one of your strong traits is to be able to listen to someone to help them get what they want, because I think sometimes people have a hard time with that. And being around someone with experience brings that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Let me hit you with a couple of selfish questions just in case there's like, I kind of think that there'll be some high school aged kid who loves skating, but maybe is saying, I got to transition into something else because I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to do it the way I wanted to, or they've already done their skate thing and now it's time for the second act. What were some of who's your favorite skater?
Oh, wow.
I know that's impossible.
Out of the thousands of people that I could pick. Well, there's different categories because there's all-time legends, which would
Yeah,
probably be the majority of people's favorite picks, and then there's most influential, personal on me, and then there's
sure,
the guys that I've skated with, men and women all throughout the years,
sure.
and everything in between. I mean, there's kids that I grew up skating, that did a kickflip, and I had never seen a kickflip before.
Yeah,
And those guys would be my, all-time favorite of that era.
right.
So, it's a big question. I think the most influential skateboarder for me personally is the first pro that I really, really identified with in a video would probably be Nadas Kappas. Uh,
Yeah,
and he is, became a friend later. We ended up riding on the same team.
yeah,
You know, but he's probably my all time. He's the guy that I look to. And then there's like even the guys that get the most obvious shine,
sure.
it's just obvious to like, but I respect their career. It's like Tony Hawk is, even though he's become a household name, the work that his work ethic,
Yeah,
like his work ethic as a human being, is something admirable to me. And then there's, Mark Gonzalez, all the original Bones Brigade guys, all the Alva team, into the 90s. I could just like all the Plan B guys, Danny Way, Rick Howard, Mike Carroll,
yeah,
Pat Duffy, all the, there's so many to name, but yeah, I think most influential of all time, highest impact at the time watching Wheels of Fire, Jeff
yeah.
Kendall. I think not a
We
stop.
watched that over and over because it
Yeah,
was like the only skate video that really had good street skating in it that we had at our local shop. So we would
right.
meet at the skate shop, watch Naudis's part. We fast forwarded most of the other parts. We just wanted to watch Naudis's part and then go skate.
Yeah, yeah. And he epitomized for me growing up on the East Coast in the DC area. I was like,
Right.
this is like, I'm in California. I see palm trees, I see sun, I see sand, I see blonde hair flying all over. I mean, it was just like, this is so California. So
That's so rad. We saw him in Denver. He came and did a demo. I think it was like the Cadillac tour or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, I saw that tour.
He board slid the top, like there was a jump ramp and he board slid the top of a pickup truck cab. And we were just totally blown away. I mean, he was like, I think skating at the time was so iconic. So like you couldn't buy real skate shoes. You had to skate in shoes that weren't
Yeah,
made for skating. And he was
right.
wearing like some basketball Converse. I think they were Converse weapons. And I was like, this dude is the sickest dude ever.
Yeah,
He has the coolest hair, the coolest clothes. He absolutely rips. And he's wearing like shoes I've never seen. I think skating at the time, as it found itself into the mainstream, it just became so iconic. And I wish that kids now sort of could see it from the eyes that I grew up seeing it at. Cause now you just Instagram, it's all in your face. You could see the best person do the best trick and it's like just an Instagram clip.
Yeah.
You didn't, I didn't get to see a real pro until that happened. And I was totally blown away by how good he was. And the
But
advertising,
you
I've
had to
never
wait.
seen.
You had to wait for them to come to town
Yeah,
by word of mouth.
right.
I mean, they
And I,
came, him and Mickey and Julian came
yeah,
to Maryland on a tour, and we heard that they would be there at 3 o'clock. Maybe they showed
yeah,
up at 6.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know, but you know, the mystique is different now. There's none of that. We live in a completely transparent world for all,
Yeah,
you know, whatever you see is real as far as, you know, you're hearing it on the other end. But then it's like, yeah, you just, you know, okay, the video is gonna drop, you know, next year in November. It's
yeah,
like, no, and what do you do? Wait.
yeah. I I think it's cool. Like as much as we think it's better back in that day, obviously there's just, there's good and bad, and it depends on how you look at it.
Right.
But for me to see photos of like Mark Gonzalez and Nadas, I was just building in my head what it had to look like. And then to see it in real life, the movement that he had, the way that he pushed,
Yeah.
the way that he grabbed his board was so different sometimes than how I would see it in like one image that was captured in Trans World.
Yeah. And they're driving around in a Cadillac, you know,
Yeah.
the
It was,
country.
I was like,
Like,
these guys are living the dream. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. I think we have like 2 minutes left in recording, and then it's
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
gonna cut off. So, you know, if there's
Yeah.
any other question.
What do you see as like your thrasher of real estate? Like, is there a source you go to when you try to gain knowledge in real estate?
I have access to all the sources that you know, every other agent in my immediate area has access to, but I think my study comes from the market,
Yeah.
from what I'm looking for with sellers and with buyers, and what's currently active on the market, you know, and how that's fluctuating. So I think my biggest study is really what's going on and being an expert right here where I live. And
That's
that's my biggest study. So
right.
you know, who sold that house, when was it sold, who bought it, you know, who are the neighbors, you know, all the things that go into, you know, making you a specialist. I bring that.
Well, and I know we can pick this up again if it's helpful to get more content, but what is your favorite type of real estate work? Like, is there a certain thing that you really want your clients to know that you are an expert in or that you just enjoy more than others?
I like working with buyers.
Okay.
I do. I like
Yeah.
working with buyers. I like
Yeah.
working with buyers. I like working with sellers, but I like the hunt. I like looking for, you know, to get something that hits checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Is, you know, incredibly difficult, but I like the challenge. So I do enjoy getting out there and going on the scavenger hunt, and finding and networking and trying to get through all the channels, and getting you what you need. So
I love that too. I feel like it's finding a new skate spot or something, but for someone else, it's pretty
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah,
All
cool.
right, man. Well, the time is about up, but I
Yeah,
just you're awesome, and I hope your clients get an opportunity to view this and see how amazing it would be to work with you and the
thank you,
passion.
brother. I appreciate that. And
Yeah,
I
of
I
course.
don't know where it got recorded. Hopefully it recorded. If it didn't, then
I
you know.
think just leave it on after and it will record and send you something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
Cool,
right.
man. Let me know if I can be any more help.
Thanks, Marcus. I appreciate it.
You bet. See you,
All right.
Reese.
Yeah.
Bye.